don't know, it's just.
But that's what I heard. You said you think it's 100.
I thought I read someone looked at that. I thought it said around 100 acres.
Okay, 100 acres. You like that better?
I mean, I know what,
Okay.
I've had a
Going
100 acre
once,
farm.
going
That's
twice,
a
100 acres.
I know, it sounds like an auction.
But, you know, they did. They went back to the Masonian proprietors and they said, look, we can't get rid of this land. Nobody wants that land. We just paid, what, $6 million for it. But anyway, nobody wants that land. So they asked them to give them more land. It was called the Moultonborough Addition. And that included Center Harbor and, you know, so forth.
Are those lines really rangeways?
Well, yeah, they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
It says, it's actually in the writing, it says, those things, and of course this is a big bone of contention sometimes, those areas are supposed to be lined, double lined with stones, and they are not supposed to be deeded. So these are to be roads to get into your plot. You know, you just bought 100 acres instead of that. And so you see it nowadays when you go down, for instance, you go down the Neck Road, and then you turn hard right, and you go down Kona Farm Road, and then you take a left, and then you take a right, and then you take a left, and then you take a right, and you say, what are we doing here? You know, Moultonborough is like this, you know. We don't do this stuff like they do in the city. But that's where it was laid out, and some of those roads were actually laid out that way, but most were not. And every once in a while, you can still go back and find them. The other day when I was down here on the Neck, I was looking at the cemetery right there at the end of Fire Echo Road.
The Morrison Cemetery.
The Morrison Cemetery. Thank you. Well, right there, you know, just next to it, there's a road that goes in with a big sign saying no trespassing. So I walked down that road, and you know, that's the way you find things out, right? So, and then I realized it's a range road.
Yeah.
There's stone walls on both sides of this. If you look back, it goes right across the road and goes right down Fire Echo Road. So nobody can tell me that I can't walk on that road. It's a range road. So this is one of the bones of contention, because some of the people down on this shore have tried to close off the range roads that were there so that people could get to the lake. But they didn't want people coming down and launching their kayaks or whatever. And so they put stones. And the town actually had to go down and talk to some people. It's not yours. So.
When was the map made, Judy?
Well, that was made pretty shortly. Probably, there's some documents in, I did look for the date and I couldn't find them. But I think it's around 1870. 1770. Yeah. Because there's a list of the families that are settled in Moultonborough in 1770. I think there were 23 families in 1770. And I think this is from roughly that time. I'm not sure exactly.
All of those towns were laid out with those rangeways so that you wouldn't be landlocked.
Mm-hmm.
And when they, like, up in Kansas, where my father lived, there was a little point that they didn't count those. And I think it was a man named John Cole went around and took a quick claim deed to all those, and he got all those little points, all the waters around, that nobody else had a better deed than he did, and he claimed them.
Yeah, you can't do it by New Hampshire law. If he's still around, you should kill him. New Hampshire law, you cannot, except by vote of the town, you cannot close a road, even if the road isn't laid out. So, you know, it takes an act of the town people. If the town people said, okay, we don't want, for instance, back in Center Harbor just a few years ago, they closed that high road that was the extension there that goes up and comes up to the top of the hill. Because the bridge went down and they didn't want to rebuild the bridge, so they said, okay. So they closed the road and they gave the land that road was on to the abutting people, which I hate it.
I know. My father had a go around with that for years and years and years ago when they were taking, when the town was trying to get a town beach, and that's when they were trying to, they got Long Island, they wanted to get one at French, Fletcher's, and I forget 2 or 3 other places they were gonna take, and the Attorney General told my father he missed his way back in the 20s that they wouldn't defend the rangeways anymore.
Aha.
And that's why you'll find that these people have built things on rangeways, because the state won't defend them any longer. The town of Moultonborough has tried to do it more than other towns, because they used to scream about, not too long ago, about people using building on the rangeways, but I don't think they can really do much about it.
Well, I guess it just depends on how much money they're gonna have to spend.
Yeah.
But I know there was a suit fairly recently, probably in the last 10 years, down southern part of the state, where some guy had built his garage in the rangeway. And nobody cared until somebody who went down on the lake and wanted to get to his land, and that was the way he was to get to his land. So he told the guy he had to move his garage. And the guy said, I don't want to do that. So he went to the town, and the town said, well, we're not going to. But then he took it to court, and the court said, that's his right. That's his right of access. It was established, in 1767. So, it depends, again, if anybody's going to contest it, they're going to have to pay.
Any other comments, questions?
What do you know about the house that's on the north side of Tecumseh, the old farmhouse that's back in across from JoJo's?
Well,
Is that one of these?
I'm so happy you asked, because we happen to have an expert here on that house. Oh, good, there you are.
That belonged to Dr. Hollingsworth, and he bought it when it was a one-story cape was there first. In about 1900 or 2, around in there, he raised it up and added another floor under it. So the windows, if you look at that house, don't match up and down. And the hardware to go in is the early, like late 1700 wrought iron hardware on the second floor, but the first floor is normal modern
And the windows are
hardware.
smaller on the first,
So
on the
then
second floor.
he sold it to Camp Tecumseh about 1903. Excuse me, he didn't sell it till a little later. He also owned the 2 islands, Joe's and Poplar, which in the town records are Henley and something else. There's three different names for those islands on the old maps. And Tecumseh wanted to buy them because they didn't want houses facing the lake, or facing the camp. And he said, well, I'll sell them to you for $1,800. That was in the fall of about 1920. And so they said, okay, it's a deal. So they came back in the spring to take possession of them, and all the lumber had been cut down. He'd cut down he'd taken all the lumber off both islands. And so they said, well, we'd agreed on $1,800. He said, well, I got $1,400 for the lumber, and I'll give you the $1,400. So it ended up with $400. He was very honest about it. He wanted it to succeed. Anyway.
That's an interesting story.
Yeah, and I think I've looked at this, the Emerson House across the way here. Well, I call it the Emerson House. It's the Laconia Savings. And you look at that too. It's the same thing. It's something strange about that house. And I bet the same thing happened there. I bet the second story and the roof were jacked up. I don't know how that works, but they didn't have a crane, so what do they do? But anyway, they jack it up and they build a newer floor underneath. And what Dick Placid says he thinks happened with the Adele Taylor's house is they jacked up the roof, and then they built the second floor underneath the roof, and then sort of lowered it back gently down. And you can actually go up there and see these old hand-hewn timbers from in the attic. But and then you look down at the floor and you can see the milled lumber down below. So
There's a cottage down on the neck, that the people wanted to raise it up. It wasn't a real old house, but old enough. So they raised it up, and in the process, something happened, and it all fell in, the whole thing. So they had to build a new house. There's two like that. The other one down there, they wanted to raise it, one that I guess Sobel owned. And they got it up, and they had a backhoe or something underneath the house cleaning it up, and they got it ready to pour the cement for underneath. And the cement truck made a mistake and backed into the house and pushed it over.
Yeah.
Speaking of moving houses,
Be careful when you look your house up.
there's a house at the corner of the Neck Road in Shaker Jerry that is fairly old. I would guess it's not as old as the ones you've been showing here, but they did just recently move that back 100 feet off of the Neck Road.
Right there on the corner of Shaker Jerry?
And the Neck Road, yeah, it's
Oh,
a lovely house, actually. I don't know how old it is. I wondered whether you had looked at that one at all.
well, I just went by there the other day. I thought they were still almost in the road.
Well,
You know, maybe you're talking
it used
about
to be 20 feet from the Neck Road. Now it's maybe 200 feet back from the Neck Road. They moved it in
It's on the
last
same
decade.
side as Shaker Jerry?
This is where?
At the corner of the Neck Road and Shaker Jerry.
That house in the back of our garage, you mean?
No, it's a standalone white.
Well, yeah, over a great view of Mount Washington.
Yeah.
On the very
That's
high.
Ferryville, isn't it?
Oh, you're talking
Oh, I'm
about.
sorry, Ferry Road. I'm
Yeah,
yeah, sorry. And it's up fairly high up on the hill.
You're not talking about Ferry Road, are you?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry. I was
Huh?
lost my head. Shaker Jerry is not the road. Ferry Road. And they moved that back, but
That
it's
house hasn't been moved.
just jacked up.
That house used to belong to a fellow named John Day, who managed the Poor Farm.
Yeah, no, not the Calendar House. He's talking about just up the road from the intersection. There's this big sort of wide driveway, and you can see the house back in it.
Oh,
No?
I'm lost.
No, it's
Not Calendar.
it's a kind of, it has a strange roof line. Maybe you may know what it was. It looks a little like a gambrel roof.
Oh, well, then you are talking about the Calendar House, the day house.
And within the last 3 years, they jacked that baby up. and
No,
moved it
no,
back.
no, they didn't move it. They just picked it up and redid the foundation. I've never seen them do that. They didn't move it.
Well, that used to be one of the post offices, that house, and the barn was behind it. If you go in there, you can see the stone foundation for what's left of the barn. There's a good picture of that in the library archives here, in the Moultonborough library.
Well, you know,
there's a cemetery.
I could be wrong. Maybe it was
Yes.
moved a little bit, but I don't think
The
it was.
Smith Cemetery behind it.
Anybody else got any good stories about houses? Anybody want refreshments?
Two more things. The next meeting is November 8th at the library. We go back to where it's warm, and it is, October, wrong one, but we're still back at the library. October 12th.
I think this is very nice here.
It is wonderful, yeah. It's Colonial, New Hampshire, presented by Jerry Danielle. It's a co-sponsored meeting with the Moultonborough Library, so it's probably connected with the Humanities Council. And the program is at 7. If you'd like to join us at 6 o'clock at the library, it's an old-fashioned potluck supper night. You just bring a dish, bring paper plates and your own silverware. We have drinks and stuff, and we do that before the meeting, so you're welcome to come to that as well. Colonial New Hampshire.
Yeah.